The state of Newcastle's season could be decided in the next few weeks. With just one fixture remaining in the Champions League group stage, Newcastle could either advance to the knockout rounds or miss out on European football entirely depending on results. A lot has changed for Newcastle since the takeover of the club just 2 seasons ago and the appointment of Eddie Howe as manager. Player recruitment rivals some of the Premier League's best clubs, but news has recently come out that club record signing Sandro Tonali will face a 10-month suspension. I fast forward a few months to place Newcastle in a similar situation as far as the Champions League goes. Our next match against Milan will determine the future of the club and European football. Some big players in this Milan squad. New rival Christian Pulisic starts on the bench, but key players that we need to watch out for include Hernandez, Rafael Leao, and Benacer. One thing that we do have going for us is this match is at home. St. James's Park has become a staple for Eddie Howe and Newcastle United. We're going to start this match off with Joelinton opening up the scoring. He really has seen a return to form, really meeting those expectations that were anticipated from him when he just transferred from the Bundesliga. It's Theo Hernandez that levels up the scoring in the 18th minute, so clearly this match might feature a couple of goals. We're just before the halftime break, and Isak will play through Joelinton once again. This effort is blocked, and we will go into the break level. Unfortunately, no key moments in the second half, so we'll be sharing points with Milan. It's not ideal, but it might still be enough for us to play in some form of European football. We'll check on results at the halfway mark, and as far as Premier League standings go, we sit top 8 within reaching distance of the teams ahead of us. Manchester City only holding a 1-point lead at the top of the table. But for the Champions League, 3 teams finished with 6 points. You don't see this often. I was surprised that Dortmund, despite the lesser goal difference, are the team that advanced to the knockout stages. So it's going to be domestic competitions that this club focuses on moving forward in this first season. And I want to discuss a few potential rivals that the club are linked to. Starting with Calvin Phillips, the suspension of Tonali has led to some squad depth issues in the midfield. And with him not getting a whole lot of playtime at Manchester City, a loan move is very much on the cards. However, I think signing one of the best teenage prospects in the world right now in Ousmane Diomande would be the right move, as Newcastle add another option at defense. Joining Sporting from Michelin just 1 year ago, Diomande has quickly gotten onto the radar of some of the world's best clubs. Exceptional on the ball, there is still some room for him to grow in his decision making as he receives more first team minutes at the senior level. I've seen reports that his valuation is as high as 70 million, but because he's not rated quite as highly in career mode, he will join us for a 25 million transfer fee. He's got that exciting prospect status, and although he won't be our first center back option, he's definitely a player for the future. 2 departures to talk about, starting with Emil Krafth. He leaves on a free transfer to Cadiz, and Loris Karius will take the drop down to the championship as he joins West Brom at the start of next season. Some good form to close out January, and as we head into February, we do have a cup final against Arsenal. This is the Carabao Cup, so a fantastic opportunity for us to secure European football early on in the season. Given the current status of the league table, both us and Arsenal are battling for similar spots, and for their starting 11, they've made a few new arrivals. Koke captaining the squad as center defensive mid. You might notice, though, they are not in good form, dropping their last 3 matches. We'll see which stars shine for each club as both teams make the trip to Wembley. Miggy Almiron for us and Bukayo Saka for Arsenal. And it is going to be Arsenal that start the highlights. Gabriel Jesus will have his effort blocked on the near post. Nick Pope, a huge part of this Newcastle team, and really giving them a quality option at goalkeeper. And here, just 2 really good saves to start off the match and keep things level. 24th minute is going to see Acuna play through on his preferred left foot, also has the shot blocked. We're into the 56th minute, and finally we see something as Almiron will get through on goal, but unfortunately, that shot is also saved. It's the battle of the goalkeepers here, as I usually don't show this many highlights, but I just couldn't help but demonstrate how good both goalkeepers were in this one. Joe Willock will be brought on in the 67th minute, featuring against his former club, and maybe he can make the difference. But unfortunately, it's Kai Havertz, who has recently been in great form for Arsenal, and clearly he is in this save as well. He bags the winner for them in injury time. We fought hard, but it just wasn't enough in the end. Arsenal started the season with a victory in the English Super Cup, and halfway through the year, Mikel Arteta's side continues to stack on achievements. All in all, though, we close out this first season with some solid performances. Third place in the Premier League will be enough for Champions League football. It is Manchester City that secured the league title with 90 points. Liverpool and Chelsea both joining us in the UCL next season. Mid-table sees Burnley perform above expectations and avoiding the drop. Luton Town, Bournemouth, and Brentford will see relegation to the Championship. Leicester City and Middlesbrough both getting automatic promotion to the Premier League, and Leeds United winning the Championship playoffs to join them. Liverpool were FA Cup winners against West Ham United, and Manchester City started their season with a victory against Sevilla in the UEFA Super Cup. Atletico Madrid getting the win against Man City in the Champions League final. Bayern somehow dropping down to the Europa League and defeating Sporting, and Fenerbahce defeat Club Brugge on penalties in the Conference League final. It's no surprise that Isak was our top goal scorer at the club, 27 from 50. It ranked him equal with Jack Grealish for the third most goals in Premier League statistics. Kieran Trippier has permission to get forward and send in a lot of crosses. He racked up 9 assists this season. He was equal with Nkunku for 6th most assists in the Premier League. And for clean sheets, some room to improve for Pope, as he had the 7th most in the league. As far as overall growth goes, Anthony Gordon has seen a great second season at Newcastle. He went up +8 in his rating in this save. And for players out on loan, Livramento returns to his boyhood club as he goes up +2 in his rating. Lewis Smiley is one of the two Miley brothers and the one with more potential. He went up +5 to a 68 overall. Sandro Tonali felt like the best way to replicate the suspension was to send him out on loan and not make him available to us. He goes up +1 during a loan spell at PSG. Minta is a player that starts out on loan in this save, and he's got good potential as he goes up +4 in his rating during a Feyenoord loan spell. Kuhl is one of Australia's biggest talents. He goes up +3 in his rating to a 66 overall. I do want to run you through my findings for Youth Academy scouting. We started with a 4-star scout, and he set up a network in England to search for a physically strong player. The inspiration for this is to find someone similar to an iconic Newcastle player and the all-time Premier League top goal scorer, Alan Shearer. Arlo Hawkins is who we came up with, a 56 overall English striker, 17 years old with 87 to 93 potential. With a significant amount of budget remaining, I decided to sign a few 5-star scouts. Our next scouting network was set up in Peru to search for a playmaker right midfielder. This was inspired by Newcastle's all-time assist leader, Norberto Solano. Mateo Alvarado seems to be quite the talent. Already 70 rated, the 17-year-old right winger has 85 to 91 potential. One more 5-star scout remains, and he sets up a network in Ireland to search for a goalkeeper. For all-time appearances for Newcastle, Shay Given leads the way, an iconic player for both club and country. Jason Kearney is the player we managed to find. 65 rated, the 16-year-old has 77 to 94 potential. I want to take a moment to thank Sangalo for sending me free kits to wear throughout this video. Sangalo has partnered with football clubs from all around the world to offer a unique collection of official club jerseys for order. Just like the jersey I'm wearing right now for Hyderabad FC, who you can actually play career mode with in FC 24. Sangalo has a holiday sale going on right now with some jerseys 40% off of their regular price. If you're like me and have an interest in global football and collecting new kits, check out Sangalo and learn a little bit more about their mission to give more clubs global recognition, and also consider using my unique affiliate link, which is found in the top line of this description. I'll receive commissions for any purchases made using that link. It's back-to-back years in the Champions League as we look to kick off season 2 of the Newcastle career mode. Board Expectations looks to have assigned a player of a different nationality than that of the club, winning the league title, winning the FA Cup, and reaching the final of the Champions League. Lofty expectations to say the least, but we do have a transfer budget closing in on 250 million. Offers coming in from both Real Madrid and Barcelona for our club top goal scorer from last season, Isak. We did turn those down though, instead looking to offload Dan Burn as he joins Chelsea for 15 million. Jamal Lewis making the transfer to newly promoted Leeds United for 3 million. Ryan Fraser heading to Leicester City for 2.5 million. And Southampton will sign Isaac Hayden for 1.5 million. Left back is probably the only position in this Newcastle squad that we absolutely need an immediate improvement. And with Alphonso Davies' contract expiring with Bayern in 2025, why not swoop in for a transfer? It's hard to believe that the Canadian international is still in his early 20s with how long he has been a top talent in career mode. It'll be interesting to see if he stays as a longtime Bayern player. I think pretty much any club in the world would be happy to have him join them. 60 million is just a small fee for the quality of the player that we're bringing in. With his contract running out, we were able to sign him for less than his 65.5 million valuation. Our next transfer target is Ousmane Dembele, who has been linked with a move to Newcastle for some time. He just draws so many similarities to Hatem Ben Arfa, another Newcastle icon. To be fair, he's been playing quite well for PSG, so I don't think he would move immediately away from the club, but in the modern transfer market, really anything can happen. And it's a storyline that I wanted to pursue as we look to win basically every competition. Significantly more for this transfer as Dembele makes the move to Newcastle for 100 million, breaking the 9-digit sum as his current valuation is only at 72 million. We already have two capable strikers with both Alexander Isak and Callum Wilson, but with injury problems persisting, I don't think it would be unwise to sign a third striker with Santiago Jimenez. It's looking like he's going to make the move away from the Eredivisie this summer, with a lot of big clubs looking to land his signature. Also, if you watch the movie Goal, you might remember Santiago Munez, a Mexican-born player who then goes on to play for Newcastle United. So another fun storyline here. 50 million for this transfer fee, and we've got another striker for the future. He's a very exciting player, and he's got a lot of potential in career mode. His valuation is set at 32.5 million. Sheffield United will be our first opponent as we kick off a new season in the Premier League. And starting 11-wise, some significant improvements year upon year. Quite a few of our players in the mid to upper 80s for their rating. And with the heavy French influence that Newcastle have had in the past, I'm excited for the Dembele transfer. It's a 3-0 win in our season opener. Joelinton takes the show, and 3 wins to start our month of August. Continue our winning ways to our first Champions League fixture against Borussia Dortmund. They sneaked into the knockout rounds last season, and they'll be joining us, Marseille, and FCSB in the group stage. Ferland Mendy making the move away from Real Madrid to join Borussia Dortmund. He's at an 82 overall. Aaron Wan-Bissaka leaving what may be a sinking ship at Manchester United, as he is also at an 82 rating. Finally, Florian Coman, a real face scan player for FCSB at a 75 overall. This is a good matchup against Borussia Dortmund, some new transfers in their squad, and we've got quite a few former Dortmund players ourselves, with both Dembele and Isak leading the line. As far as how the Champions League group stage is going for the 23-24 season, Dortmund is the only team that have mathematically secured their spot in the knockout rounds. It's been considered the most difficult group, and it's proving to be a very entertaining affair. As we get into the highlights for this one, Isak scoring against his former club. Just a cool and collected side-footed finish to find the back of the net. It's Dembele that gets played through, and his effort will get blocked. Dortmund looking to answer before the halftime break, and Sebastian Haller does have his efforts saved. Nick Pope doing quite well between the sticks for us. And now Davies setting up Isak for his brace. So our new signing Davies, he's got permission to get forward similar to Kieran Trippier, and clearly he's going to get involved in several assists this year. Haller looking to get one back for Dortmund, and he will do so in the 63rd minute. So all of a sudden, we've got a match on our hands. Jashari is a high potential player in career mode that has made the transfer away, but Nick Pope pulling off an immaculate save on his near post. His defense was so excited for him, as that gave us all 3 points in our Champions League opener. A statement against Borussia Dortmund that they're not going to get away to advance into the knockout stages on our watch. Exciting times as we push on to the January transfer window. We sit top of the Premier League standings, 7 points clear of Arsenal, and in the Champions League, it's us and Marseille that advanced to the knockout stages. Borussia Dortmund actually finishing last in our group. Looking through our starting 11 and substitutes, I'm probably most excited about our young players featuring off the bench and growing quickly in their rating. We do see one transfer away with Lascelles joining Al Hilal on a free, so he departs at the start of season 3. But shifting focus back to the Champions League, we've got a round of 16 matchup against Bayern, who have signed the German international Rudiger as he returns back to the Bundesliga. A 3-1 win for Bayern, though, in the opener, and a 2-1 win for our opponents to defeat us 5-2 on aggregate. So tough news for Davies, his former team advancing to the latter stages ahead of us. And more bad news as Bruno Guimaraes has picked up a 3-month injury, so he might be available for one of our final fixtures in the season. And I would say that our form suffered as a result, picking up a few losses and draws, pushing on to our final league match against West Ham. It'll prove to be an important one because we need to win to mathematically secure our place as Premier League winners. Squad-wise, Guimaraes will feature off of the bench. I just don't want to risk him aggravating that injury any further. And Matty Longstaff is certainly a capable option. Plenty of players to watch out for in this West Ham squad, though. I like the fact that Bino Gittins has made the move to the Premier League, and although he's not highlighted, I would consider him to be one of their key players. Perhaps it's only a matter of time before our club can disrupt the continued momentum that Manchester City have had in the Premier League. We're looking to do that today with Newcastle, trying to return them as English champions. Happy to have Tonali back in the squad as he is key to this build-up, and it nearly results in a goal for Dembele. Just a few moments later, it is going to be Dembele that opens up the scoring. Took us 25 minutes to do so, but finally we have lead against West Ham, and trying to hold that lead as it's a opportunity for Bowen to get the effort on target. Nick Pope continuing to be our #1 goalkeeper and making consistent stops. Another opportunity for West Ham as we get into the 59th minute, and it's just not a chance that was cleared away well by Cher. Fortunately, it doesn't result in a goal, and we'll bring on Bruno Guimaraes to solidify our midfield. We're in the 85th minute as Miguel finds Paqueta, who is actually linked to a move to Manchester City. He plays the ball over to Maxwell Cornet, and that is going to be the equalizer. Some tense scenes here in the final moments of this match, and perhaps our Premier League hopes might be in danger. To make matters worse, we're into injury time, and it's Cornet again down the left flank. He's going to send it across, and it's Bowen who once again has his shot denied by Nick Pope. We're going to frantically clear that away and honestly settle for just a single point to at least give us a chance of winning this Premier League title. No celebrations from the fans, no celebrations from the players, so we'll just have to see what the league table looks like after the final match day of the Premier League. Upon review of the 2024-25 season, we do finish first in the Premier League. That means it's a bus parade throughout the streets of Newcastle. It's been almost 100 years since the club were English champions, despite being right up there in the late 90s and early 2000s. We ultimately share the points tally with Arsenal, but win the league due to goal difference, with Manchester United and Manchester City rounding out the final 4 spots for Champions League qualification. Mid-table, some of the newly promoted sides like Leicester City doing quite well to keep their spot in the Premier League. Relegation is going to be Leeds United, Burnley, and Middlesbrough that drop down to the Championship. Brentford and Bournemouth will be the automatically promoted sides next year, with Luton Town winning the Championship playoffs. Spurs will finally end their trophy drought as they defeat Manchester United in the FA Cup. West Ham actually win the Carabao Cup, continuing their good display against Middlesbrough. And for the UEFA Super Cup, it's Atleti that defeat Bayern. Manchester City once again show up in the Champions League final. This time they'll win it against a team from our group, Marseille. Leverkusen get the win against Manchester United in the Europa League, and Spurs double their trophy tally with a Conference League victory against Real Sociedad. Isak was once again the top goal scorer at the club, 26 from 45, and he was the Premier League top goal scorer. Most of his goals actually coming from the league. Bruno Guimaraes, despite significantly less appearances, was the only player to reach double digits in assists. He had the 3rd most in the Premier League, equal with Martinelli from Arsenal. And a huge season from Nick Pope. He made several saves in the gameplay, and he also had the most clean sheets in the league reaching the double digits. Sandro Tonali has had a successful return to Newcastle, reaching the 90s for his rating and just shy of a 100 million valuation. Loan updates coming through, starting with Hawkins. He went up plus 10 in his overall to a 66. Cool up plus 4 to a 70 rating. Alvarado up plus 6 to a 76 overall. Minta up plus 3 to a 75 rating. Kearney going up plus 3 as well to a 68 overall. Willock up plus 2 to an 82. Lewis Miley continuing his growth as he goes up plus 4 to a 72 rating. And finally, Elliot Anderson up plus 3 to a 77 overall during a Brighton loan spell. Running back some of our scouting updates, we begin in Nigeria, searching for a physically strong striker. Looking for a player similar to Shola Amiobi, who racked up a lot of appearances for Newcastle. And if I had the option in EAFC 24, I definitely would have scouted Senegal as well, because Dembaba and Papi Cisse had such an incredible partnership for Newcastle. For our actual youth academy talent, Felix John is the prospect we found, a 64 rated striker, 18 years old with 83 to 94 potential. Scotland is up next for our scouting network. There's just been a lot of Scottish players for Newcastle over the years. A great name as well for our prospect, Rob Scott, a 59 rated center back with 88 to 94 potential. We'll close things out with a physically strong striker from England. The same criteria we searched for last season, but a different player with Andy Carroll. Hopefully Theodore Saunders lives up to and goes past the hype of Carroll, as he's only 48 rated, but he has 87 to 93 potential. With the Premier League secured, we'll turn our attention towards the Champions League for Season 3. Not many improvements we necessarily need to make in the squad, but for board objectives, we'll look to continue a heavy focus on youth development. Domestic success expectations stay the same, winning the league title, winning the FA Cup, and this time we have expectations to win the Champions League. Surprisingly, our transfer budget has not changed much, but we still have plenty of funds to work with. Harvey Barnes requested a transfer away. He'll make the move to Juventus on a 40 million fee, and Joe Willock, after a successful loan spell at Chelsea, will join them on a permanent for 35 million. To keep transfers moving in this third season, we're going to make an upgrade at the goalkeeper position. Potentially a controversial call with how well Nick Pope has been playing for us, but Aaron Ramsdale has quite a few ties to Eddie Howe. He was instrumental to his development during his time at Bournemouth, and there have been points this season where Ramsdale was not the first choice for Mikel Arteta and Arsenal. It's a 45 million fee to see Ramsdale complete the signing to Newcastle. Had his contract running out, so we managed to bring him in for less than his 53 million valuation. We'll be turning to the Saudi Pro League for our next transfer, and Ruben Neves making the return to the Premier League. News has recently come out that players from the Saudi Pro League can make loan transfers to teams with Saudi ownership, like Newcastle in the Premier League, and at an 86 rating, Neves will be hard to bring in on a loan, so we'll sign him on a permanent. 40 million is a lot to be spending on a player that won't even break into our starting 11, but he will provide valuable squad depth in our midfield. Another case where the player's contract was running out, so we signed him for less than his 51 million valuation. Alan Saint-Maximin has been a Newcastle fan favorite for a long time. It was kind of sad to see him depart to the Saudi Pro League, so for our final move of the summer, I thought, why not have him return? For a long time when Newcastle were struggling to avoid relegation, Saint-Maximin was right up there with one of their best players. Known for his 5-star skills, he put up solid numbers in the Premier League, closing in on double-digit combined goals and assists. It's just going to be a 20 million fee to see Saint-Maximin's return to Newcastle. Looked like he also had his contract running out, as he's currently valued at 26 million. But it's a new competition to begin our season, the FA Community Shield against Spurs. They picked up the double last season, so this squad is going to have a formidable test ahead of them. But a lot of focus on our new number 1, Ramsdale, as he's reunited with his former boss, Eddie Howe. Here is the Spurs starting 11. Some interesting choices in there, as they've got a couple of German transfers in their midfield with Joshua Kimmich and Toni Kroos, along with some expected key players like Kulusevski out wide at right wing. With one trophy already secured in this rebuild, we'll look to continue that momentum here. Spurs riding high on momentum though, Ange Postecoglou completely revamping this squad and making several transfers, but it's Ousmane Dembele that showcases some great dribbling to set up Joelinton. It's a good save in the end from Vicario. But Anthony Gordon, despite seeing some good growth so far throughout the seasons, hasn't featured too much for the gameplay. That'll change here. He finds the near post as he opens up our scoring at 19 minutes in. Luke Shaw setting up Scarlett at the striker position, but a good save from Ramsdale, showcasing what he can do as he makes the transfer within the Premier League. A good run from Isak to stay onside and double our lead before the halftime break. And really not much else for us to do here, just keeping our shape defensively and trying to stop whatever chances we can. Another good save from Ramsdale to deny Pedro Porro as Heung-min Son keeps it in play, and it's a good block from Diomande, who is now our starting right center back. Off of one of those corner kicks, though, it's Kulusevski that gets into the box, dribbles by a few of our players, eventually finds Luke Shaw in the middle, but Ramsdale with another denied chance to keep his clean sheet, and Anthony Gordon continuing to make an impact on this game as he finds Ousmane Dembele for our third goal. We saw a few 3-0 results at the start of last season, and it looks like we are well on our way here. As long as we can hold off Spurs for these last 10 minutes. Another save from near range for Ramsdale as one last chance for Spurs. It's not going to change the result of this match, but I think the confidence has got to be at an all-time high for our new goalkeeper as we lift the FA Community Shield and set some benchmarks for Season 3. It's a good first Premier League match as Ruben Neves returns against his former club, and it's another 3-0 win. We'll push on to September and our first Champions League fixture against Feyenoord. We've got them, Milan, and Sturm Graz in our group. Highlighting a couple of players, Thiago Almada does feature for Milan at an 84 overall. Justin Bijlow still at Feyenoord at an 80 rating. And finally, Alexander Prost creeping up in his rating to a 79 overall. This is an interesting matchup against Feyenoord. Not as many high potential players anymore, a couple of seasons in, but this is the former team of Santiago Jimenez. We've seen for previous seasons how competitive the Champions League can be. And although I think our group this year is among the easiest that we've had so far, I fully expect Feyenoord to be a good first test for us. It's Dembele that tries sending a cross in the middle and denied from Bijlow. I know he's not rated as the best goalkeeper in crew mode anymore, but I still consider him to be a top talent. And Feyenoord seem to be building off some of that momentum from early saves because they get the opener 21 minutes in. Granted, they are playing away from home, but I could not tell from these first 30 minutes or so. This striker continued to get through on goal, and it was a good save from Ramsdale that denied him from getting a brace. It's a great cross in the middle, and Isak flicking that header on for Dembele. Another good save from Bijlow, though. Santiago Jimenez being brought on against his former team. Maybe he can make the difference, as we've still got about 40 minutes left to play. Good cross from Dembele to find Gordon, but Bijlow keeps on making saves. Fortunately, we get hold of possession again. Some quick passing, finding Joelinton, and we are level on the scoreline. 30 minutes left to go, and we're making some changes. Almiron being brought on for us. He was a starter in Season 1. I still consider him to be an impact sub, and he's going to do that right away as Jimenez gets by the Feyenoord defense, dribbling past a few more players, and ultimately it's being in the right place at the right time. A little bit of luck too for Miggy to get that goal. You'll see on the replay, it kind of deflects off of his thigh and into the back of the net. Nothing the Feyenoord defense can do about that, but on the offensive front, they're going to get one last chance. It's a cross set into the middle, and we try our best to get it away, but it's the equalizer. Another thrilling Champions League fixture to start Season 3. It looks like we have our work cut out for us and some questions left to answer, especially in our defense and at goalkeeper. We'll review results as we head into January 2026, and no longer top of the Premier League standings. We sit 6th, so still competing for European competitions. But in the Champions League, we do finish top of our group for a change. It's us and Feyenoord to advance to the knockout stages. Starting 11-wise, I think this is what we'll continue to work with for the Premier League, just opting for players with the highest overall. Matt Targett leaving the club for Hoffenheim at the start of next season. But as we finish up January and head into February, we've got our round of 16 fixture against Leverkusen. And I do anticipate making some changes to feature Nick Pope more often. I know he's low rated, but he has historically been a great option for us. Shifting focus to Leverkusen, they still have Florian Wirtz at the club. He's into the 90s for his rating, but it was a 2-0 win for us. Could have been more as Isak missed a penalty, but it was a 0-0 draw in the second leg that sees us advance 2-0 on aggregate into the quarterfinals against Juventus. One of our former players, Harvey Barnes, at the club at an 83 overall. But getting it to the score lines, it's going to be a 2-2 draw in our home fixture, but a 3-1 win away from home to put us through 5-3 on aggregate into the semifinals against PSG. Kylian Mbappe very rarely moves in career mode. I've always found that fascinating, but he's had a 94 at this point in time. It's a 1-1 draw in the first leg, but unfortunately, PSG get the better of us in the second leg to advance 3-2 on aggregate, meaning that our final fixture this season will come in the FA Cup against Manchester United. Manchester United are in great form right now. They're coming off just celebrating a Premier League title as City, Spurs, and Chelsea round out the top four. We finished 7th, so a slightly more disappointing year. Leicester City are probably the big surprise mid-table as they continue their momentum and pushing up the Premier League standings. And for the relegation zone, it's Sheffield United, Brighton, and Luton Town that see the drop to the Championship. Leeds and Burnley will see promotion to the Premier League alongside Millwall as Championship playoff winners. For the FA Cup, we'll go all the way back to the start of the season where we defeated Spurs in the FA Community Shield. Manchester United were Carabao Cup winners against West Ham, and for the UEFA Super Cup, it was Manchester City that defeated Leverkusen. Real Madrid were Champions League winners against PSG, Real Betis winning the Europa League against Napoli, and PSV picking up a Conference League victory against Besiktas. An outstanding season from Isak, 43 goals from 57 appearances, just about doubled his total from previous years. It's no surprise that he was the Premier League Golden Boot winner with 31 goals from 38 matches. Anthony Gordon ranking as the most assists at the club, 14 from 56. He's tied with several players for the 4th most assists in the Premier League. Clean sheets wise, I was surprised that Ramsdale did not feature in the top 15. It's probably what kept us from finishing higher in the Premier League standings. We still don't have any players at the club surpassing a 100 million valuation, but for loan updates, Rob Scott's up +8 to a 67 rating. Felix John up +6 into the 70s in his overall. Mateo Alvarado, probably the best prospect that we've found so far. He's up +3 to a 79 rating. Quell up +3 to a 73 overall. Elliot Anderson up +1 to a 78 rating. We've got Arlo Hawkins up +4 to a 71 overall. Minta up +2 to a 77 rating. Carity up +3 to a 71 overall. And finally, Lewis Miley up +2 to a 74 overall. Manchester United are focusing heavily on their youth academy and young players, featuring in the starting 11 and Thomas Muller now captaining the side at center attacking mid. He's not the only Bundesliga transfer as Nico Schlotterbeck has joined them in defense. Although we've continued to fall short in the Champions League, winning the FA Cup at Wembley will be a good send-off for this Newcastle squad, showing that we can indeed be one of England's top sides. It's some great play and fantastic passing to set up a first chance, but Alte making a good stop to deny the effort, and Marcus Rashford play through. He's going to give United the opener in this one. Only took them 13 minutes to break through, and finally it seems like Erik ten Hag and this squad is gelling together and building some chemistry. Trippier down this right side, finding Isak, and now playing through Dembele. The pass in the middle over to Bruno Guimaraes. He is going to find the back of the net. Back and healthy and really getting involved as a box-to-box midfielder. We're into the 37th minute and looking to get into the lead as Dembele skips by a couple of Manchester United defenders, finds Isak, but a fantastic save by the United goalkeeper. It's going to be a chance for Manchester as they set up Marcus Rashford, who tries to double his goal scoring as Højlund gets an opportunity in the second half. Another pass through, and it's Jordan to get the side out of Manchester the lead shortly after the halftime break. We're not giving up though. Anthony Gordon looking to win back possession. Ultimately, it's Alphonso Davies that forces the ball back in our favor, and we are once again going to find the equalizer. Isak adding another goal to his season tally. As we push forward to the 69th minute, it's Jolinton, another box-to-box midfielder in this Newcastle team. He could have squared the ball across there. I think that would have been the better decision. And that forced me to make a change and finally feature Ruben Neves for a couple of minutes here towards the end. Isak looking to skip by a few players and find Tonali over to Dembele. We've got a 3-2 lead as we are just throwing players forward and looking to close out this season with a victory without needing any sort of extra time or even penalties. We'll need to hold off a little bit longer though, as it's a cross sent in. Diomande initially getting it cleared. Tonali unable to fully get out of the box, but it's one final save from Nick Pope as he is going to reinvent himself as a Newcastle staple. You just cannot deny what his contribution has been throughout this rebuild. Despite facing adversity, he stepped up on the biggest occasion, and we will indeed be lifting this FA Cup to close out the rebuild. One more trophy lift for Kieran Trippier to round out what has been an average season as far as Premier League standings, but I'll take a double for all competitions. Most importantly though, we've brought Newcastle back as a team that is competing for all competitions, and we've got to be considered one of the favorites as far as English sides go.